I have started recording now, however, so let's have a sneaky look at project planning. So we are starting a new topic. Let me just get out of presenter view so that it records properly. Okay, so yep, we're making a start. So you guys know how to behave. Okay, so last term, maybe we don't. Maybe I should go through it. So last term we did networks. We looked at moving around a graph, adjacency matrices, types of graph features. Your exam will be week 4. So we still have like 3 topics to get through before week 4. Maybe 2 topics. We have this and flow diagrams. I think that might be it. Yeah, that's it. This and flow diagrams. Sorry?
Is this exam like on the coefficient and stuff?
Like the correlation code? No. That'll be term 4. We'll have to redo that. This exam will be on networks and graphs, time series. There was another thing we did in time series, but like basically the stuff we started doing in quarantine and then up to now. Yeah. Right. So learning goal success criteria for today, guys. I'm learning about features of network diagrams for project planning. And that is gross. And which represent the precedencies of activities. So you'll be able to create networks representing activities and precedencies, create precedence tables from a network. So can I get you to jot that down for me, please, quickly? And we'll get this show on the road.
This Saturday, you don't like telephone.
I'm too tough for you.
Mortal Kombat.
I can't do that all the time.
I'm a girl, dude. Wow. Kitty cat. Okay, that was kind of gay.
Yeah. You heard Juice's song, Come and Go? So let's do it. It's good.
With who? What feature?
Marshmallow. So it's like an EDM song, yeah.
You just go features, network diagrams.
No, it's actually good.
Is it actually good?
Yeah.
Actually,
It's hard.
Networks.
No, it's not like Mosquito, it's like it's like a guitar solo in it, and Juice is like pretty like cool flow over it. Pretty mad.
I really like it.
I really like Marshmallow, but
Yeah.
Juice
When I
is
heard Marshmallow, Juice is like one of the best.
you know Miss Bridget actually said no thank you this morning.
No, thank
She
you.
was like the lady was like thank you, and she's like no thank you. I was like that's breathtaking.
Oh, that's why
Yeah, that's
you
what I
said
thought it was.
I was
You were wondering why I said that. Yeah, that's why it sounded like that.
confused as.
We know.
Just thought you were just chatting shit.
I ain't chatting shit. I never chat shit. Cause they get hit.
Said men don't cry. Men do cry. Men do cry.
No.
Men show emotions.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
You're wrong.
Real men show emotions.
No. Impossible.
It's possible. There's a T in there.
You wait till you cry.
I've never cried. I've never cried.
Especially graduation.
I've never cried. I will actually.
I won't cry.
I genuinely will cry. I'm gonna miss you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would definitely at graduation. I probably will drop a couple of tears.
I'll be doing that. I have a seizure for like.
Because it breaks the rules of the world. It goes against precedents.
Okay. Righto, if you don't have it down, you can get it down off the board, if that's legible. Okay. Guys, to start with, I want you to list the steps you can think of in baking a cake. Imagine you got told right now, I need you to bake a cake. I want you to list the steps that you would need to do.
Can we just say it?
And then just say which steps would be important.
Never
Well, I want you to have a brainstorm. Didn't you do food studies?
Yeah, but we have to go into depth with that. Can we just?
I don't remember. It was like 3 years ago.
I did food studies in my old school. We made these potato thingies. Not a cake.
I think you need.
Okay,
You,
I want you to
milk.
dot point like 5 or
Just
6
gather
steps you'd have to
materials.
take. Just dot points, guys.
Do you need eggs?
No, just say
You do
gather
need eggs
mats.
for a
Do
cake.
you?
Just say
Okay.
gather mats.
Get mats,
Yeah,
bro.
have
Yeah.
food.
You need the wood. You need the stone.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, just stop. Just
Okay.
Gather mats, bro. Gonna build a 1x1.
Yes. What is the best one?
So you get an account.
You go to Woolies and buy my cake.
Whoa.
That's
Welcome back, Brady.
That. I love that I said, what are the steps in baking a cake? And you're just like, oh, you just don't bake it. You just don't.
Grab all your is it PPE?
What?
Gear?
PPE.
I don't know.
or you just
First
say
number.
Yeah, you got a safety first.
Yeah.
gather
Clothes in
mats.
shoes, etc.
And then you gotta gather your ingredients,
Gather ingredients.
and then
Mix,
preheat the oven.
mix shit.
Preheat the oven.
Is order important for preheating the oven?
Yes. Yes.
When should you do that?
At the start. That's
Start.
one of the
What's the
steps.
temperature?
What happens if you don't do that?
You gotta wait for the oven to preheat once you've added
Or you
it
can
in.
just
Or you do what my mother used to do and you just turn it up like 30 degrees higher
Yeah.
and then just like have a burnt cake at the end.
Oh, hell yeah. Just some damper, you know? Get some damper.
Yep. So what next?
You beat together the butter
Mix.
and sugar.
Yep.
And then you add the eggs.
Yep.
And if you add milk, you can, and vanilla. And then you mix the dry ingredients together, and then you combine slowly while beating them with a hand mixer.
I don't think it's
And
complicated.
then you put it into a cake tin after it's been greased.
You gotta put food coloring in it.
Yeah, you got to grease the tin first.
Nah, that's it.
Non-stick spray.
Thanks, you 12s. So we're up to greasing the tin. What do we do after we grease the tin?
Slap it in.
The batter in.
Put the batter in.
And make sure you get your hands all dirty, so you have to lift them off.
Yeah, of course.
No, you gotta get
When do you get the thingers?
Okay.
Already mixed it.
Oh, you've already mixed it?
Right. Okay, it sounds like we're we're already thinking in the right mindset. I'm not going to do that third dot point, but that's what we're basically going to be doing today. Is imagine if you had to do a cake, what would you do? And it would look something like this. So you start, and at the start, these are some of the things you basically have to do. You have to heat the oven, line your tins, beat the eggs, cream the butter and sugar. You can't mix in the flour until you beat the eggs and cream the butter and sugar.
We can, but
Well, it just
it'd be bad.
if you do that, your cake won't work. You can't pour into tins until you've lined the tins, and you can't pour into the tins until you've mixed in the flour after creaming the butter and sugar and beating the eggs. And you can't bake it until you've heated the oven. Okay. So this topic is called project planning. So what is project planning and why should you care? I'm pretty sure everyone knows someone where they can't like organize themselves. Yeah, mostly me. They're just horrible at managing their everyday like tasks. Like you'll be like, oh, how are you going with like your assignment? And they'll be like, I haven't written an introduction yet.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I will say that's me.
So, there's someone that's not very good at managing their workload.
I can't hold it this long.
Great
I don't
man.
understand it. Is it meant to be?
It's just,
That face.
it always, I don't know, I just love his face. Like, why can't he hold all those lines? I don't know.
Like news on your feed on Facebook, and you're like,
No. Pretty much, yes. I just have that picture in a frame at home and walk past it and chuckle every day. Okay. Thanks, you 12s. So, basically, if you're not very good at organizing or getting stuff done in the right order, this is kind of relates to that sort of thing. It basically gives you a clear idea of workflow. So I need to do this, then this, then this. I can do this like halfway through. It's not as important as the other stuff, but I absolutely have to do this. The amount of times I've had students like start an assignment and they have like a choice of 3 or 4 topics, and they'll start like trying to write the assignment without actually choosing which topic they want to look at, and they just like, yeah, they're just like, oh, I've written like half my discussion, and you're just like, oh, which topic are you looking at? They're like, oh, I don't know, but like, thanks, Braden. So in terms of real life, that's where you might see project planning. Another way is in computers. Computers actually have like workflow assignments so that the computer doesn't like overheat and explode. It's not maxing out its CPU and its RAM and stuff. So if you like install a program, it doesn't try and install the entire program at once. It does it in bits and pieces. So, you know, if you install a program, the first thing it'll do is install the drivers that program needs to run, that sort of thing. So if we think about a wedding, if you wanted to plan a wedding, I know some of my friends at the moment are doing this, and it's one of the more stressful things they've ever been through. If you wanted to plan a wedding, what's the first thing you got to do?
Have a bride.
Yeah, find someone willing to marry you. Yes. So you know that might take some time, but once you've done that and you've decided they want to marry you, what do you do?
Ask her.
Yeah, we're assuming we're up to the.
Okay.
We've done the like, will you marry me? They're like, yeah, all right. Okay, so what do you have to do to organize a wedding? Pick a date, pick a dress, invitations. Where are they? Where are the? Yeah, you got to pick a venue. Can you send invitations before you've picked a venue?
No. Nope.
Or a date? No. You can. It's just probably gonna be a bit of a schmozzle. You know, there's all sorts of things you need to organize. Wardrobe for bride and groom and the bridal party and stuff like that. You need to organize like photographers, videographers, cake, catering, music.
Lucky you'll never get married.
So, can you imagine though? What would happen? Like you send out those invites too early, you haven't 100% confirmed your venue, and all of a sudden your venue is just like, no, we can't do that date. That's going to be a bit embarrassing if you have to send out, and expensive. Wedding invites are actually really expensive. If you do them like,
Inviting people.
yeah, or like even if you're doing them up fancy, it's quite a chore.
Send a text message.
But then, what if you send out your invites too late? What might happen?
They won't be able to make it.
Yeah, you might be like, I really want Jacob to be at my wedding, but he's already got plans that weekend. That's so embarrassing.
It's a nightmare.
So I can't decide if this guy had too much time to prepare or not enough time to prepare. But
The knight in shining armor and the princess.
yeah, so I reckon they should have allocated a bit more time to getting their outfits in sync.
You don't think that's cool?
It's pretty dope.
Well, I think the guy's pretty cool, but the girl needs to step up her wedding game.
She didn't even have a crown.
Yeah. She doesn't even have a
Tiara.
sword.
It's
Like,
a
what is
tiara.
this? Why even get married? What's the
Tiara.
point?
It's a tiara.
Tiara.
Okay,
You do fucking.
so I want you to grab out your textbooks and look at page 473, 474. It's basically the stuff we've talked out, but in a little bit more depth.
So edgy. Have an edgy wedding.
I did work with a guy. I'll just go back. I worked with a guy in Charters Towers that he didn't wear armor to his wedding, but I think he did have a sword.
Oh my god, that's mad.
He was a bit of an odd fellow, but
What do you mean it's gangster?
She belongs to the street.
so page
I love it so much.
page 473, 474.
Sorry, wrong page, mate.
And I want you to have a dot point for each of these. Give me some examples of projects with multiple steps. What type of graph is it? If we're doing a project plan in a graph form.
I got one.
What did my edges show? What do my vertices show? And what is an immediate predecessor? And what is a precedence table? So all the answers to all those things are contained on page 473, 474. You sure do.
What's the time?
So just a dot point in your books is fine for those things, guys. For the first couple, you should be able to. So for the first one, examples of project multiple steps. We've already given you baking a cake, organising a wedding. Your formal would be an example of something that you could do a flow diagram for, so a project plan for. You know, I assume something like the venue's probably already sorted that it's just going to be in the hall, I assume.
You might have it on the overview slide.
I did the wrong. Yes, I did.
What's your example? Beet meat. Ow. Fine.
It's a very long process, isn't it?
It was gonna have a lot of dots and lines. All do. Getting ready for work.
Excellent. You don't need to actually draw a graph. You just need to give an example of something you could do it for.
Getting a girlfriend? Question mark?
Oh,
I don't think that's something you can really put times on.
It's never gonna happen. No, I'm kidding.
What we end up doing with these is it becomes like, at the moment this doesn't look very mathematical at all. It becomes very mathematical down the track, where we look at, you know, if you're planning a wedding, after you've booked the venue, how long do you have until you have to have like the photographer booked, that sort of thing.
What is that type of graph?
Type of graphs, it would be a directed graph because it's got arrows. It goes from one end to the other. You can't like just read it anyway. It's not like, you know, in the previous ones we've looked at where like a road map is undirected because you can go from anywhere to anywhere. But for these ones, you have to start at the beginning and go through towards the end.
So you should have played on the men's netball team this season.
There's a men's netball team.
Yeah, you should have played.
Is it over?
No, it's just started.
Oh, I might do that actually. I do enjoy netball.
Just talk to Mr. Harris.
Is he on it?
Yes.
Who else plays?
Mr. Ashton, a couple of the boys that played that were like in school last year.
Oh, yeah.
Neil teachers.
mad.
Madness.
It's a madness.
It's a pretty intense competition.
Yeah, see, I used to play indoor, but I used to cheat using the like nets and stuff a lot.
Yeah, and net in indoor, can't you just throw it against the net and catch it again?
Yeah. Oh, you can't catch it if
Oh,
you
can.
you can't like get the ball back if you've thrown it against the net. That's
Replay ball.
I forget the rule. Sorry.
Replay.
Yeah, replay. That's it. Yeah.
It's pretty relevant. See, mate, I'm actually done it now.
When did they play?
Tuesday.
I can't play with you because level difference. But that's on my other account, so it's all good.
Your problems.
Yeah, I hate how I'm so placed so low.
Yeah, I don't know how you'll place that.
Everyone like won once and they got
I've lost 4 and got silver. Silver.
like, what's the point? Making no account.
What is your
I don't know what was the question.
getting ready for school? That'd be it. I'm still not good at that. I came into parade late with pancakes. It was great.
Yeah, I know. I saw.
Yeah. The chappie wanted to give me some pancakes. I was like, whatever, I'll take them.
It took like 2,
They were cold, but I was hungry.
like your hub.
Yeah.
So you pick.
Another couple of minutes, guys. Are there any questions, ladies and gents?
Stop. Stop. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven,
Oh, it's just myself.
nine.
How many activities are involved in this project?
I mean, I know what predecessor means, so I guess I can understand it. Maybe, possibly. There we go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh,
Yeah.
does that count as an activity as well?
Yeah, so that might, I don't know what this is supposed to represent, but I don't know, like maybe they're trying to organise something, so A might be find out who's going to help you on the planning committee, because you can't like plan anything till you have a group of people together.
Mm-hmm.
But once you have your planning committee, you can go off in a couple of different directions.
Yeah.
Which activities are predecessor of gift?
Is anyone up to immediate predecessor and precedence table? Couple of us? Righto. Go through the answers in a minute.
Activities. Immediate predecessor. Hey.
Really is funny how we started the year with like bivariate data, which I think is like more annoying than this topic, and now we're here at the end with like talking about making cakes.
We've gone down.
We've come a long way.
We've gone down.
Oh, that's scary. Yeah, literally have like 2 topics left to learn about.
85 days left.
Oh my god.
Is it 17 weeks?
But we have 5
Well,
days.
85 days, yeah. Takeaway like,
A whole week.
yeah, because I think there's a pupil free this term, there's a public holiday.
Holiday, people free, and then we have the 2 athletic carnivals, like the 2 days for athletic carnival, and then we have a swimming carnival day.
Do you know when swimming? Have they decided swimming
I
carnival
think it
yet?
might be in week 10, but I don't know if they've definitely decided.
Week
Right.
10.
I don't know if we'll do it because they didn't say it on the parade.
No, last I heard they weren't sure, so maybe they just don't have a definite date yet, so they didn't want to announce.
Smugglers and I should go with them.
I said no.
It does say
But yeah, oh, that does remind me, guys, we are going to lose a ton of lessons this term, unfortunately, for maths. We're going to lose. We lose a Monday for pupil free. We lose a Friday for public holiday. We lose Thursday, Friday for sports days.
When's that pupil?
I think it's like week 7 or 8.
Oh, fair bit.
It's later in the
Still,
term.
we miss a math.
The beginning of the term is fairly like consistent.
Okay.
Okay, can someone give me an example of a project with multiple steps?
Baking a cake.
Baking a cake, yes.
Making
Another
jelly.
one. Sorry?
Making jelly.
Making jelly, yep. Maybe a non-food related one. Moving house, yep. What would be some steps in moving house that you'd have to do in like particular order?
Buying another house.
Buying another house or organising somewhere else to be? Packing stuff. Setting a date. Yep. Organising the removalists.
I'm a master.
Yeah. Organising how you're gonna get to your new place. Like sometimes if they take your car, yeah, or if you're gonna get your car towed there or whatever. Some people choose to do that. You have to organise your move-in date as well. You can't just organise your move-out date. So that means before you organise your removalist, you have to have all that stuff sorted. Yeah. Okay. What?
Big move.
Oh, we said that this is a directed graph because you have to go from one end to the other. What do our edges show?
Consistency.
Where the next. Where the next.
Consistency.
So the edge represents an activity or an event or whatever you want to call it. I think generally in the textbook they call it activities or events. What do the vertices show? Yeah, beginning and end of an event or multiple events. It also shows like the convergence of events. So before you can start sending out invites to your wedding, you have to have booked the venue, booked booked caterers, all that stuff. What is an immediate predecessor?
It's like the first
Something
step that you
before?
need to do before all the others.
Yeah, the event or the activity that you need to do before you can start the next one. So what would be the immediate predecessor of putting the ingredients putting the cake tin into the oven for baking a cake? Well, preheating would be one of them. There'd be pouring into tin, and so those would probably be the two immediate predecessors, and then those events probably or sometimes have their own predecessors. So previous to pouring into the tin, you'd have like mixing the ingredients, lining the tin as its immediate predecessors. Okay, and what is a precedence table? We get to our precedence tables.
That shows the immediate predecessor.
Yeah, predecessor. So just say like for activity A, there's normally not a predecessor, but then to do B, you might have to have done A first. To do F, you might have had to done A, B, and D first. That sort of thing. Okay, so I'm not going to get you to get this down. We'll just talk through it real quick. A project is made up of individual activities. An activity network has edges that represent the activities of a project. The vertices are not labeled except for start and finish. Activity networks do not have multiple edges. Remember, a multiple edge is if you have a vertex here, a vertex here. A multi-edge is there's two ways to get there. We do not have those here. If activity M has to be completed before N begins, M is called an immediate predecessor. A precedence table records all of the immediate predecessors for each activity of a project. Okay, so can I get you to draw the activity network from this precedence table? So just remember, it always starts with start.
How's your phone? Nice. Preview video.
How do they do their arrows in the textbook? Oh, they didn't like that. I just don't like that. So your table should start like that. Once you've started, you can do activity A straight away. It has no immediate predecessors. These arrows from a mile away, can't you? So it makes a cool pattern. It does make a very cool pattern. Just make sure we have a start and a finish as well.
Okay.
So from A, you can then do B, C, and D. And I'm going to go start and finish. I like to cheat when I'm drawing these, and I sort of do the start and the finish and try and like fill in backwards, whichever is easiest. So just looking at H, it has a couple of things that go into it, so I'm just going to do those.
I spend a little time when I yawn, I like shiver at the end.
G.
I've been yawning
For G,
this whole
it's
time.
D.
My bags. I'm really bad.
You've got bags. I think I'm that tired. I don't have bags. You know when you get to that point?
F.
4 a.m. bro. Bad bags. Like, I was tired and I kept reading, and then I got not tired. You know what I mean?
How?
You get past the point of being tired, and you ascend to the next level.
That's not ascending to any level. That's just
It's the next level.
shit.
Yeah, I struggled to fall asleep after that. Like most of the time when I fall asleep, it's because like my eyes close themselves.
Yeah, same. I've been doing that all holidays.
So, ladies and gents, you should have some diagram. It's some version of that. Basically, you start and straight away you do A. Once you've done A, you can do B, C, or D. Once you've done B, you can do E. Once you've done C, you can do F. Once you've done D, you can do G. And then once you've done E, F, and G, you can do H. And then you're done. So I got no clue what that might represent. Doesn't really matter what the real life context is because we're just worried about
Wait, so letters don't go.
At the bit of dot, they go on it.
yeah. So it's different from what we looked at with networks in the past. Is we mostly cared about the edges representing something. The vertices representing something, and then the edges were just the connections. In this case, it's sort of backwards because the edges represent the activity and the vertices are the connections between them, or the precedence order between them, I guess. Okay, is everyone happy with my answer? Are you looking at that and be like, no, that's not right?
No, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is I haven't done this since like this topic. When was the last time I did this? 2015 would be the last time I taught this. So it's been a while for me. Hopefully I remember it right. Like any network, they can be written a number of ways. I'll just get you into the habit now. Try and avoid crossing over lines on these ones. Because like I said, later on there's going to be numbers and stuff attached, which make it a little bit harder. Okay. So, in the textbook, they've drawn it like that. Which is, pretty similar to the way I've drawn it. There we go. Okay. Can I get you to have a go at drawing the the flow diagram? Sorry, not flow diagram, project plan. We're not looked at flow diagrams yet. For this activity table. So you have 5 events, A, B, C, D, E. So have your start and your finish, and then add in those 5 events. So try and think of, when you see that there's 5 events, think in your head, well, that's 5 edges that I need to have in there.
I don't know. That looks weird, doesn't it?
Yes.
This is a pin ready for me.
I don't think that's it either.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, we established that. So close. You're lucky I'm holding myself back.
The dog.
Excuse me, what did you just say?
What in God's name did this called?
I am the opposite.
So once you start, you can do A, B, and C.
Jam.
D, you need to have done A, B, and C. And E, you need to have done A, B, and C. So what will that look like? It's tricky, isn't it? Do we have any thoughts?
I'm lost.
Lost? Because you'd think like, oh, well, D. So D has to start somewhere and end up here, but it really has 3 start points, doesn't it? Sort of. We're gonna look at it in a moment. It's kind of a trick question. This one. Does it have
You're a ghost.
Dude, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
Do it, dog.
You're lucky I'm not that type of guy.
You are that
Okay. So to be able to draw that one properly, guys, we really have to have what we call dummy events, which we're going to look at in a moment. What about this table? Can we do this table? We got 3 events, A, B, C. D has 2 predecessors, E has 2 predecessors. So once again, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same thing. What we essentially do is we put in what we call a dummy event. So we draw a line, but it doesn't have an event attached to it. So we're saying that A, B, and C has to be done. Let's say the end of D. Let's say that's, because once D and E is done, that's easy. And then that'll be the finish. So let's call this activity D. What you do is you basically just do like a little dotted line up to it. So it basically says those things need to get done before you can do D. It's essentially all we end up doing. Okay. So dummy activities. Or you add in an extra vertex to sort of do it. So the solution is to draw the diagram with the activity D starting at one of its immediate predecessors. So for this one, we're starting it after A. Using a dummy activity for the other. So D has two things it needs to start from. A and it has to start after A and B have been done. So all essentially you do is you take B where it finishes and you just do like a little dotted line up to the beginning of D. Sometimes I draw it like that where it's along the actual line, but it's also correct if you just do it straight to the vertex. Probably better that you do it that way, seeing as that's what the textbook says. These aren't real activities. They are in effect imaginary, but they allow all the predecessors from the table to be correctly represented. A dummy activity for D allows activity D to directly follow both A and B. Dummy activity is also needed for activity E. So technically what we should do up here, I'll redraw it the way they want it, is you have B finish there, C finish there, that can go there, and then you'd have...
Chaser.
Stupid.
Okay, I know this dummy activity stuff can be a little bit frustrating and like hard to get your head around. So I'm not going to get you to like copy that down. Actually, what I'll get, can I just get you to just write a little note, dummy activities, and just the blue? Just get the blue down, please. So extra dotted edges are required if 2 activities share some, but not all of their immediate predecessors. Oh my goodness, time flies.
When you're doing maths, that should be the quote. You should put it on somewhere.
And the days go so much slower.
Mine go fastest.
So is this still going?
I know how you feel about doing maths.
I hate you.
Don't take this. I literally just had the thought. I just still wish I was on holidays.
Oh, same here.
It's
I've
like,
been yawning
it-
this whole time.
I'm so tired.
It felt like that was 3 days of holidays, not 2 weeks.
It was way too short.
To be fair, we had heaps. We had that isolation thing. That was practically a holiday
Maybe for you guys.
for us. Yeah.
Actually, not for Nathan. He had to come in and see me 3 times a week during isolation. You were here every day in ISO, weren't you? No? Huh. Memory's playing tricks on. I'm getting old.
It's that.
The dementia's sinking in.
I heard that from 2 teachers today.
Do you see division? No.
Okay, I think we're good to go. So, can I get you to draw a activity network from this precedence table? So you will need to draw a dummy activity in, or 2 dummy activities in, I believe.
What are you gonna do?
I will trump you with my height.
Are you shorter than me?
No, I'm not. I'm taller than you.
Are you actually?
Yes.
Oh no, you're insignificant.
But you're shorter.
My presence.
You don't, if you want to.
I have a small penis.
I don't need you to though.
I don't have to imagine that.
It's true because it is.
No, because. Oh, fuck. Just dig myself.
Once I've done A, I can do C.
Good, that's
Well,
weird.
I'm an outlier, first of all.
Yeah, too low.
Once I've
No, too high, you
done
goddamn.
B, I do D.
But they had an average of 5.2. I didn't know that.
Well, my title secret.
E, I need C.
Crocodilian dog.
Do F.
My dick doesn't smell
Stop. I'm done with these guys.
It's just like coconut lotion when you.
Stop that.
Stop what?
That's sound.
What?
Disgusting.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's like slow. Slow and sloppy. Cloud chaser, you're a hater.
You're a hater. I like the Belle Delphine version. I don't know.
That's literally what I just said before.
It's not my most artistic work, and like I said, there's other ways you can draw it, but it should look something like that. So you start. Once you've started, you can do A and B. Once you've done A, you can do C. Once you've done B, you can do D. Once you've done C and D, you can do E. So to represent that D has to be done, I put in a dummy event from D to the beginning of E. Once C is done, you can also do event F. And once both E and F are done, you can do G. So I've just put in a dummy event from E to the end of F to show that it needs to be done before G.
Spooge-tastic.
Okay, so we need to make sure that is down in our books, ladies and gents. You might do yours a little bit prettier than mine. End up being a little bit uglier than I intended.
I'm not a dog.
You're a ghost star.
No, I'm not. I stopped ghosting.
You ghosted like days.
No, I haven't.
You did.
No, I just said I'll hop on soon.
Yeah, 6 hours later. No, more than 6 hours.
Okay, fuck.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the way the morning was at 3.
I'll rub
You
that
jumped
out.
at like 7
The,
or 9.
I want to say the textbook used to be, when I did this like 5 years ago, they always had like a thing at the beginning.
You could really join
So
this
start.
with your brother.
And
We haven't run into school.
Oh, sweet boy.
so guys, George just pointed out in the textbook they don't
It's
have that
called
line
fan
before
band.
and afterwards. That's an old thing apparently. They don't do that anymore.
Old man.
So yeah, you don't need to. There you go. It's something I used to do back in the day. Back when I was young and full of vigor.
just
what?
Vigor.
Very vigorous, I am.
I only ghost you.
Okay.
Like several
Isn't
times.
ghosting when they
Okay. I think this is the last thing we do before you guys have a go. Yep.
You told me you'd done like
Can you guys have a go at creating a precedence table for that diagram that I've just chucked up on the board? So draw your precedence diagram.
No, it doesn't. If you say soon, it doesn't. It means like.
You're wrong.
Well, it doesn't say at a specific time. It just says. A B C D E F G
Yeah. So A through to
B C D E
J.
F
J comes up
G
high, doesn't it?
H I J
Yeah.
H-I-J. Yep, there you go.
H, not H.
It's H.
It's H.
No.
It's H. I remember.
Why do people say H and not H?
I think the correct is H.
Is it?
It is.
But it's to do with accents and language creep over time.
So you can
I
say
wouldn't
whatever.
worry about being pedantic about it, to be honest.
I remember like in grade 6, our teacher would always say it's H, not H.
I had a teacher like that, but language changes so commonly. It's silly to like be like, oh, it's actually this, because it's very normal if something's entered common usage that just becomes accepted.
Exactly.
So you know that in the dictionary, literally is defined as both literally and figuratively. So like, if you say literally, there's no way to just say like, oh, he definitely means this, because it has two contradictory meanings in the dictionary.
Ooh.
Just because so many people use literally to mean figuratively.
Especially white guys.
Let's not take it to a racial place, Jacob.
No. It's like the typical, like, you know?
I do know what you mean. It's like I literally can't even do anything right now.
Exactly.
I know they can't be bothered, man.
Okay, that's maybe you as well. I've
They're
heard
so
of,
stupid.
I remember at the beach.
Okay, I'll give you another minute or two on this one.
So does that mean D, B, and C? Or
Just so the first vertex is the beginning of the activity. So the only thing that D needs to start is B.
and then so F, A, C, and
Yeah, and so and G.
Usually how this works.
Batista bomb them.
Just.
Oh goodness.
Wait, crap, I've lost. So C would come from A. B would come from A. C would come from A. No. Wait.
So G. So just look at the starting vertex.
D, C.
And any line that's going into that is a predecessor.
I can't ignore, dude. Last time.
God, you're so
Yeah.
I am not a doctor for ghost. And I didn't even play it once. I still been playing with you. Except for yesterday, because some shit happened yesterday.
then I'm
I know, I was doing schoolwork yesterday.
You're playing League.
There's only one arrow.
I played one game. Literally one game the entire day. Literally a 30-minute league game for the entire day.
Was it now?
Yes. I wake up at midday.
Janie.
Yes, I wake up at midday.
Positive?
I'm absolutely positive. What's the end?
You were playing League
There's an arrow from the end of G.
when I joined at
What
like
time is it?
6. We trade.
I literally played one game.
Does anyone else need a hand, guys?
No, you played another one.
We're going to be using the textbooks again in a moment, Casey.
6 until 7. Because I had James getting yelled at.
So, guys, this is what your precedence table should look like. A has nothing before it. B needs A, and C needs A. D needs B.
Right. Oh, dude.
E needs C. F, if you look at where F is, there's two arrows going into the beginning, so going into that first vertex. So that means both D and C are immediate predecessors of F. G has 2 arrows going into it, C and D. So it also has D and C as its immediate predecessors. H has E and F going into it, E and F. I only has G going into it. And then J has G through a dummy event, and then H. So you just need to be aware of those dummy events as well. Yeah, there you go. So I want you to have a go at page 480 in your textbook, question 1 and 2. So, and we have about 15 odd minutes, yeah. So that should take us up to the end of the lesson. And then you'll be done with maths until Thursday. For
I'll last till Thursday. I need to have a nap.
I know.
Maybe I'll have one at lunchtime.
As if you sit over there.
Yeah, I'm sitting over there.
It's gonna be like a 10-minute nap.
20.
Is it 20 minutes?
It's a 30-minute period. 30-minute break.
Lunch.
Yeah.
And then what's the second lunch?
30 minutes.
So we get 2 30-minutes.
No, I think we get 20 then 30.
30. That's a 40. 30, 40.
It's a 40. Damn. I thought it was 20, 30, 30, 40. Wow. 30, 40. Quite epic.
inject. No, there's another step. Yeah. Yeah, they're too short.
Look at those cards, bro.
I assume that's why they're doing it. Like you could do it.
I don't know why it was in there. There's nothing around it.
Yeah, maybe on the next page. I got really confused last time because there was a random picture of him behind that wall. There's no like medical question. It seemed very odd.
Stop being a teen. That was gay. That was gay.
Sorry.
You are. You got debated. You got debated. You got debated.
So guys, there are actually quite a few problems in question 1 and 2. We probably won't finish them all in the next 15 minutes. So Casey, let's get to it, please.
Yeah. There's my name. A little bit, yes.
What's with your hair? Do you wash it today?
No. I want the more good hair.
My hair's like soft and silky thing.
Yeah, but it's like you look like you should be wearing sunglasses.
Now,
Yeah.
bro, I have to wear a hat every time because you know my hair. If I don't have a hat, it just
Yeah, I don't know what happened to your hair. Was it always like this before?
it's always been like this. I just have it long.
My hair's not long.
Yeah, in the middle.
It's actually like long now. Like this is back in grade 7 hair.
But you surely get the same haircut as me, so
It's so annoying.
no, slick it back, and then you get a rat tail at the back.
I'm not getting
That'd
rat
be
tail.
too ish, bro.
I'm not getting rat tail.
It'd be ish. Mine be too long. Did you slap me?
So I'm glad you didn't give us homework to do it.
Stop.
Let's see if this is a full count. Oh, wait. Imagine this on your ass. Oh, that was a good slap, you guys. Sorry? That was a good slap. Oh, you're lucky. Holding myself back, dude. Don't want to eat your pretty face.
So I want you to write a precedent for this activity. Yep. So, are there any
Stop.
Oh, is it weird?
Yeah.
and B?
Is it
Shouldn't be that weird.
You answered your own question.
Yeah, I contradicted myself.
So to get to C, you need to go from the start to get to C.
The contradiction is real.
You could do
Say that for C, A is
Oh no, wrong.
So,
Every time I get slapped by my mom and daddy, my hand is
once again,
Don't say mommy and daddy. Stop that.
oh. Sexual. Every you get doing sexual stuff. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Let me do it. Let me do it.
I want to be sexy with it. I want to be horny. Wasn't yours in English?
I'm always in English.
In this thing next to Nick is like, oh.
Nick, look weird.
You had to stand up, didn't you? But you're like,
Sorry, Mr. Percent. Good leg injury. Oh,
sleep with my lube.
yes, it is.
No.
Now stop.
Use lotion. I ain't that rich. Stop. Don't use water.
ABCD. This is just mean. Why are they doing this? Can you just not just ABCD? Like,
just do P, A, B, C, D, E, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S,
don't worry, I'm just.
V, W, Y, N, Z.
Can I tell you something that you may not know, and if you don't, will blow your mind?
Go ahead.
You know the alphabet song?
Yeah.
It's the same as when they little star.
Yeah.
ABC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's just.
Oh, okay.
It's like the same as the
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's the same as what?
Like, I think there's more than just those two. And there's like another one or something.
Damn.
Yeah.
See, huge brain can take it.
Didn't even know that.
And now it's knowledge you'll carry for the rest of your life.
Now I'll just explode someone else's mind.
I'll tell my grandkids one day.
Bro, we have so many kids. Like so many kids.
How many having? 9?
Nah, we like that. I'll be having 4, 3.
4? You're expensive, right?
Yeah.
You gonna work in the mornings, mate?
I just want to have a big family. Big families are sick. I gotta admit, big families are cool.
I just want a girlfriend.
What the hell?
You know, I'm gonna.
Oh
What
no.
the hell are you on? Big bro.
Really bad. What do you mean?
Whereas GVW is what? And why?
Oh no. Yeah, but I want like 400. Mostly boys.
So basically the verses. So S is from that vertex.
Like I can't like, oh,
It'd be too expensive.
I'd be like, so what was his name?
There's son of a bitch that broke my balls anyway.
I want to be like the scary dad. Scary dad. Like I don't talk that much,
That's my dad.
but like talk enough. And then when they grow up, I finally talk with them.
Yeah, but it was because he had started getting really bad.
No.
Or I can be the joking dad where it's like,
Oh.
I don't know if you'd meant it.
Yeah, the one.
nah, what is that dad?
That's illegal.
Like, outside.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you have to think of that shit, man?
How we going, boys?
So,
Good.
it's being weirdness.
I'm being weirdness, bro. TUV. What was V?
Army RGs.
Which part of the Caribbean?
It says you do the first couple. Probably alright. I don't want to use the next one.
Do any of them down there?
I'm so hungry. I'm hungry. I had patty pies for dinner last night.
What'd you have for dinner?
Patty pies.
That's yum.
Made them myself in the microwave.
We had pizzas. Microwave?
Yeah.
Why didn't you oven it?
Oh, you don't know the special tech. You don't know the tech.
What do you mean?
You get a tea
You
towel.
get a tea towel, yeah.
You wrap it up, put it for 3 minutes, flip it, put it for 3 minutes, and then
Yeah, but you just have a micro oven. Do you have one of those?
No.
It's like this little black thing, like it's a little oven thing, so whatever. I normally do chicken nuggets, chicken strips, party pellets,
Kind of
salad rolls.
Do you make your own? Or do you get them and heat them up?
Animal. I could do it really well.
I'm gonna joke on to get a sausage roll right now. I need my license, but I don't want to drive. Automatic car.
Don't worry, I'll be
Can you give us lifts, bro?
trusted. Always for you. No, but like,
My queen.
I'll make you go outside more often. Probably.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left. If you haven't already, can I get you to have a go at F on that question 1 if you haven't already? Just because that's a good one with dummy activities. And then I might leave that question 2. So it's got those 4 diagrams. Can you do those for homework, please? And I think on Thursday I will give you another homework sheet of
I'll
revision.
finish it on Friday. I do my homework.
I don't. I have geography, English. I have so much to do.
Yeah, you guys never do your homework.
No, geography we always do it. Now.
Always.
We never used to, but now we do.
Why?
Except I didn't do my introduction over the holidays. I'm going to go out.
It's funny because if she yells at me, I just laugh because it's her accent.
S is from that point to that point.
She's really a nice teacher.
I did all my grammar. Yeah, she's good. She's good.
Oh, whoops.
She's hot.
Where did I put? Oh, no, I don't have you guys tomorrow, do I? No.
No, Thursday,
So that's alright then.
Friday. Wait,
I will not be here.
You wanna come check this, shall we?
This is weird. My hair's never been straight since the start of the holidays. Like when I say straight, I mean this isn't straight.
I know.
But I was bed hair all the time. Every day
I was
bed,
bed
hair.
hair like.
Whenever,
for
even when I
3
went
days.
out to Josh with Josh and stuff, I still bed hair.
Oh, yeah, you did, yeah. My ankle with JD. Oh, I regret drinking JD. I thought I would be the stronger man.
That was.
It was a bad one.
No, I'm just gonna stick to beer for a
The bad boy.
No, because it's cheap. It's like, oh yo, I'm gonna get like a carton of this. It's like $80, yo. It's like one carton. It's like 50 to the
Uh-huh.
yeah, sick. With a mask. Oh.
We've got like 2 minutes left.
Yeah, but it's 2
Oh,
minutes.
did this
still.
homework.
Too much anime last night, apparently.
No, he's reading
No, I
manga.
was reading a book last night.
Manga.
I got to a good
Don't
part.
lie.
You know when you get to a good part and you're like, I just gotta finish this part, and I kept going for like 100 chapters. I was like, oh,
So when you say reading a book, what book?
like a translated novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a graphic novel or?
No, like a novel.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That
It's
was Chinese.
translated. How did like? Because some things just don't translate well. Like, is it still like? Obviously, it's gripping because you
Sometimes
read 100 chapters.
Yeah, it's really good. They still just keep it in the Chinese word, but they give like a definition of what it would be. Yeah,
Right.
pretty cool.
I'm reading my manga.
I finished that already.
Yeah, I know.
I finished watching
One Piece.
I finished watching One Piece on
Really?
on